Hey, everybody, Recruiting Animal here on Google Meet. I don't know how it's going to come out, but Richie Rich just helped me figure out how to get the split screen. Thank you, Rich. Hey. You know what Steve Levy said? That he's not, well, I don't know. He didn't. He said, yeah. He said, none of us are the America's recruiter, but I'm going to claim that Richie Rich Rosen is America's solo recruiter because he's the highest scoring solo recruiter on Forbes list of top recruiters in America. Okay. Now, I didn't have the chance to join because I'm not in America. I would give him a run for his money. You better believe it. Okay.
But he's lucky. Thanks here in Canada.
He's lucky he doesn't have to mess with me. Okay. For the time being, he holds the title. And I'm proud to say that he's here on May 31st. 2023. There was a whole bunch of this already we recorded that was figuring, well, how does this work? What are we doing? I don't know. I'm going to cut that out so you don't have to listen to it. Okay. But you know what, Rich? I am happy to see you clicked on bitchfest.ca and it brought you here. Am I right?
Yeah, it did indeed.
Oh, woo! Yeah. Something worked. Something worked. Okay. So let me see what my first question is. Okay.
All right.
New stuff. Okay. Sasha says, who's not here today, our good friend, she said she hired a candidate for an admin position. Are you listening, Rich?
I'm trying.
Okay. The candidate didn't show up on the start date. No notice. Okay. Then she applied to Sasha again for a different job. Okay. And Sasha said, what's going on? You didn't show up for the first job I gave you. She said, my father, sorry, Rich, if it's sensitive, because Rich's father died recently and suddenly. But this woman said her father passed away. She was going through a difficult time. That's why she ghosted them before. Sasha is asking, what should we do? Should I ask her for an obituary to prove that her father really did die? What do you think, Rich?
I mean, having just gone through it, it's a little bit challenging, but I got to tell you, like, I texted a client during my whole shitstorm. So I'm like, you know what? You can text anyone.
Yeah, that's just what another recruiter said. Hey, it takes 60 seconds to send an email. There's no excuse, no excuse for her behavior. Move on. She is unreliable.
Yeah, I wouldn't put my eggs in that basket. And you know what? You should be able to Google that girl's name anyway and find an obituary that she may be tied to. So, you know.
Oh, so you would check it out to prove that her father
I'd be
really
curious.
Did die.
I'd be curious, but I probably wouldn't waste a whole lot of time on something like that.
You would just pass on her.
More than likely. You know, it all depends how desperate you are. But with 99% of the time, yeah. I mean, you ghost her once, so ghost you twice. You can't rely on them.
You know what? I'll just mention that when my mother died, I was always used to having my parents, when older people in our family, they called everyone for the funeral. And I was, I was upset. I handled it fairly well, but I didn't feel like calling anybody, right? Some people got mad at me. Why didn't you call me for the funeral, right? And I realized I was wrong. I just went with my feelings rather than my responsibilities. So
the joy of Facebook now. We probably had over 400 people come by that funeral for my dad.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we're going to move on now. Okay. What about this? This recruiter, I think we've been over this territory before, but this guy claims, he said he went from sending out 80 emails, recruiting outreach emails a day with almost no response to just sending out 10 that were intensively researched. Okay. And he said that works better. I think you've told us before that this is absurd. Am I right about that?
No, I mean, listen, if you can personalize, it's great. But the chances you're getting 100% response doing personalized emails, I find hard to believe. And find even harder to believe it would work forever. But listen, if that's what you want to do and do send complete, like truly personalized emails, not just hey animal, but really personalized emails that actually shows why you know this guy and why they're a good fit. Yeah, it's great. I just don't see how you're productive enough to do that. And do that every day,
See, Rich, I don't like the answer you gave because it's two-faced, okay? And he does this sometimes. And then he accuses me of misunderstanding. Oh, you're quoting me wrong. Hey, no. My turn.
My turn is Mr. Black and White. There is no black and white in recruiting other than most people's side.
Okay. You know what? But there's no 1 and 1 is 3 either, okay? And this is what he said. Oh, well, yeah, it makes sense. I believe, yeah, you could do some really good research, intensive research, and it's good. And then he said, but I don't believe you can get a good response, okay? A total response. You send out 10 emails, you're not going to get enough people replying. So what does that say? It's no good, okay? Rich says it's no good, even though he denies saying it, okay? Everybody, the number one solo recruiter in America, you can't get him to pin him down. I don't believe it.
If you can personalize it, if you can get enough personalization at scale, and we're getting there between doing there's different tools out there that if you can eventually get enough personalization at scale where it's something real, not just like I said, hey, we went to the same school together, call me. It can be great, but my space, there's just too many people to reach out to. You can't possibly get enough volume out of there. So
I hope everybody's listening. I'm right. Now he's got an ace in the hole. He said, well, you can use chat GPT or something like that to help you.
You can eventually you'll be able to combine like LinkedIn and chat GPT, and it will personalize a lot of stuff for you.
Hi, Ernie, foodindustryrecruiter.com.
Hello.
Okay. I don't understand how come I shrunk? I'm not a square anymore. I'm like a little rectangle there. Okay, but hold on a second. Ernie, you don't have that expression on your face. You're on the show. People are looking at you, okay? Look at that. Yeah? Okay. Look, okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to expand this
Rich,
thing.
can you just say, how do you foresee one of these AI tools helping you personalize a large number of emails?
So companies like Chatterworks, which is they do data enrichment. You can do some lookup stuff on it, but they'll tie into ChatGPT, and eventually you'll be able to pull into like a LinkedIn profile. You'll be able to pull into like a Humantic, which is it's like a Crystal Nose, which basically gives you a disc profile on people. You can eventually be able to
Crystal Nose. How can this guy keep pushing Crystal Nose? It amazes me.
Humantic is the better one, but in any event, it also. But at the end of the day, all that stuff's going to get combined into where AI can then write a personalized email for you. There's probably already stuff out there that we don't even know about.
Okay, so I could say right now, ChatGPT or whatever program it is. Can you write me a personalized email for Rich Rosen so he's going to want to reply to my recruiting outreach?
I think you could write a prompt if you input like a profile. I haven't done this, but I think you can. I thought I saw something about this. Tom may know. If you can write you can drop someone's profile in and write the proper prompt, so ChatGPT will write a personalized email based on that LinkedIn profile.
Yep, it can do so much. Like if you copy and paste the entire contents of their LinkedIn profile, it'll write a resume for you. It'll write a script for you to present the candidate. It'll write an email to them, telling them why your job is so good.
Okay, you sound like you've done it. Have you done it, Tom?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, Ernie knows as much about it as I do, because him and I have been working with it.
Okay, we'll come back to Ernie. I just want to scold this guy. He sent me here to Google Meet. He knows I've never been on it before, and me and Rich had to figure out how to use it on our own. Okay.
Nicely done.
Well, he should have been here. He should have come 5 minutes early to help me. Okay, that's the only.
I had to take my daughter to the dentist.
Bugs outside.
I want to note that it only gives us either the solo speaker view or the gallery view. You don't get both, which is what Zoom offers. So I'll just
to see. Actually, I think that when I'm talking right now, when it's recorded and you see it, it'll have me pop up during the talking.
So. I don't think so. But anyway, that's another thing. Have you ever sent 10 emails? All you do is put in the LinkedIn URLs for that person, and it'll come up with 10 and send them all out. Have you guys, or Ernie, if you're such a pro already on it?
No, you got to cut and paste the LinkedIn profile in there. It won't read the URL yet.
Okay, well, how do I know? Ernie Moreno, there's not too many Ernie Morenos, but what if there's 10 of them and I put in Ernie Moreno's name, write me an email enticing Ernie Moreno to consider this position and reply to me, what's going to happen?
Well, what you got to do, though, is give it a little bit more instruction. Like you started out with, I am a recruiter. I am trying to entice Ernie Moreno to respond to this email. Here's a background of Ernie Moreno. Please write something that would.
So I have to go get your background. It can't fetch it from from.
See, but the whole thing.
It can pull the very first
the whole
part
thing is
of your
you're
LinkedIn
trying
profile.
to get it to identify what you want, and you try to write the intent on it, and that's that. And the more personalized you can get on it, the better response you're going to get. And if you don't like the response you get, you can always ask it to improve it, to change it. It could write it in a tone that is.
It sounds like it's going to take a lot of time. Let me put the.
Excuse me. It doesn't take a lot of time. What it does is you may write something that's shitty on an email, and then you go in there and you say, improve this. Or somebody writes you an email and you're saying, hell, I got to respond to this. I ain't got time. You can take that email, copy it, put it on ChatGPT and say, respond to this email. And it will then respond to that email, and then you can have it improve, and you can modernize it. You can copy it, you can paste it, and then just.
Yeah, let me just tell you where this conversation started. Okay, this guy said he was sending out 80 outreach emails a day as a recruiter. He didn't get a good response. He started doing intensive research and sending out 10 a day, and he got a better response. Rich tried to sit on the fence and said, yeah, research is great, but you're not going to get a good response, not enough of a response. Do you guys have any take on that? Then he started saying that, there's these tools will do it for you. Doesn't really sound like it's a fast
Here's what I just asked ChatGPT. I'm a recruiter trying to entice this candidate, and I posted Ernie's LinkedIn profile right after that, and then this is what it posted back. And you can then take this and do it however you want to ask it to bring it down to a third grade reading level, ask it to make it so it's what's the thing I'm looking for? You're the way that you talk or the way that you do things, how it sounds for you, or just gives you a starting point. But it's like, I hope this message finds you well. I recently came across your impressive profile, blah, 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 blah. And it just, it does this. So you, and
okay. So are you backing up Rich? Okay. Cause we've got a contest here.
What do you mean? What's the backup of Rich?
Well, Rich says the tools are going to, you can do this research in the future. You can do intensive research on everybody you're emailing, and it won't take you a ton of time. Is that what you said, Rich?
I agree with that.
Absolutely, 100%.
Doesn't sound like it to me. Okay.
I bet you within the year you'll be able to pull LinkedIn through ChatGPT.
Yeah, give me a quick profile. Give me a quick overview of these 30 profiles. And I'll copy and paste 30 profiles in it, and it'll not today, but in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the important thing is it's something you better learn right now, and you're at this thing is probably started maybe in January, February, and those that hopped on it right away learned it. We shared it with each other, and we talked about it and what to do with it. I mean, it could get.
Why? What level of expertise do you think you've got on ChatGPT at this time?
I'm an expert at 3 months.
Oh, I would say that I'm better than you are, Mike.
No, I don't know anything about it.
I can't
exactly. So I'm learning.
I can get it to write an NPC on a resume.
Hey, so look at everybody. If anybody listens to this, these are the top recruiters, okay? You can tell by the way they talk, they know what they're doing. But when you ask them a question, how good are you? Are you a total expert? I'm better than you. That doesn't mean anything, okay? I don't know anything.
No.
I said I was an expert.
I said ChatGPT. I mean, am I an expert? I have no idea because I don't know what an expert at ChatGPT is, but I know that I'm at least.
Well, ask your buddy Ernie, who you just said. Ernie and I know all about it, okay?
But if you know how to write the prompts for that, and there's so many different prompt machines out there now. You know how to write the prompts. You can set the temperature, the tone, But you can just write basic. There's so much basic stuff you can do without even knowing how to write a prompt, other than put an email in there and say rewrite. It does a great job. And then you can say make it more, make it funny.
I can share 120 prompts.
Yeah,
that you can use and there's a dozen that are geared towards recruiters.
No, so you got to be careful. There's some of these idiot trainers out there though that are selling. I saw some guy selling prompts. His prompts were like literally it was like write the word rewrite. It was like his prompts were all like 1 sentence long. Like if you want, like really,
you gotta be careful in terms of the prompts that you don't write. Like someone says, here are 100 Boolean searches prompts. And,
if you want like in-depth training on ChatGPT, like Trish Tampkin does this huge course on it, and I mean you get these Trish Tampkin, like Moore's Essential.
Oh, Trish Tampkin,
She does this deep, dive on this stuff, and the stuff that she creates out of that are just absolutely phenomenal. Like you can get it to do everything. Like you can even teach it to write like you write, but better.
Okay, that's Tamkin, Tamkin, and Moore Essentials, Moore Essentials is her company. Is that right?
Yeah, Moore's Essential. Yes, I think there's an S.
Okay, she's a trainer that Rich endorses all the time. You've got another guy you like as well. Who's that?
Mark Whitby's good. Mark Whitby. Mark Whitby's also got a ChatGPT class. I haven't done his class though. But
which guy is that? Is that the guy that's $1 Million Recruiter?
No, that guy's
he's a British guy.
Yeah, Mark's actually over in Scotland. He's actually Canadian. He's actually but he lives in Scotland. But yeah, Mark's really good too.
Shelley also comes out with some good stuff. You listen to some of his training, very good.
Okay, moving on.
Wait, can I ask one other thing? But you should also look at YouTube. YouTube they have ChatGPT training throughout, and if you pay attention to that and you listen to those, take the time to listen to those videos, you'll learn how to do it, because a lot of people are teaching you how to write a much improved prompt and what you need to say so that you can get what you want.
Yeah, you know what? I want to say something about Tom, who I praise here quite often, okay? But he's got his background in reverse, okay? He doesn't realize that it's coming out in reverse. What do you think? I'm reading it backwards?
I can see it normal. I thought you guys...
No, you can't see it normal. I don't believe you can see it normal.
I know. I see Palmer Roads before it was backwards. That's why I changed it, because I had it backwards before.
Okay, it just goes to show you that the best recruiters are not perfect, okay? And they're willing to admit that, okay? Yeah, last week we had both Rich and Tom telling us their greatest weaknesses that were not weaknesses at all. Okay, typical. These are my greatest weaknesses. I work too hard. Yeah.
How's that? Does that work?
Yeah, that works. Let me say something, Tom. You said last time when Rich was talking about his strength, which is follow through and execution, you said something that he didn't include. You said, we like to push. What did that mean? I didn't know what you were referring to. Do you remember what that? You said, we like to push, and you move your hands forward.
Yeah, push the process. Make sure that time kills all deals. I'm going to push the process to make sure that they interview on time.
And how do you push it? Because that was my next question. I'll come to a story, or maybe I'll tell the story first and we'll put it in there. Okay. This company, I think I mentioned this before. The recruiter brought in a VP. Okay. And they interviewed her 5 times over 2 months. And of course, somebody else grabbed her before they finally made up their minds that they wanted to go with her. So Steve Levy said, and Martin Snyder as well, said, this recruiter should have known the hiring process in advance and then guided them into something more reasonable. Okay. Now, but I don't know. Can you say that every 3 interviews fits every candidate? Sometimes you're not sure.
You need to know the process of your client and make sure that if it, and when you're starting out, we're talking about a new client, if their process is antiquated and takes 3 months, then you just say, like, I can't help you and walk away.
That's the Rick Rosen client's uncooperative. You tell them there's a problem with it.
Yeah.
They say, sorry, this is we're not going to follow your instructions. You say goodbye, right? Am I right, Rich?
It's too long.
When I have a problem like that, I'll have them call Rich for me.
Yeah, but I mean, also, Steve's point is, like, every company is unique. How many times, you walk into a search, you ask all the right questions, especially if you're dealing with an internal recruiter, they may be getting blindsided themselves, and then you're getting blindsided. You're only hearing what this guy's telling you, because if you're dumb enough to work on a search that you're not dealing with the hiring manager anyway, there's a whole bunch of holes. His statement was a big blanket statement, saying it's always in black and white. It's not. You should, if you did all your due
Hold on,
diligence.
I don't understand what you're saying. Are you saying you asked your client how many interviews you're going to have and they will tell you, or they tell you something and then they don't adhere to it? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, you go through the discovery process. You're going to go through what's the interview process? How many interviews? Who are they going to interview? What are these people like? What are they going to dig into? I mean, that way you can set yourself up for success. Otherwise,
Okay, but if they say 3 and then they're not ready to make a decision after 3, what do?
it depends what the rest of the process. What do they need to know?
Why are we at 3 and not hiring? Yeah.
I mean, again, it's not like a one size fits all question. You know, there could be a million reasons. If they just don't know, they're not sure if they like the guy. Well, what didn't you like about the guy? You know,
My biggest client has processes that are like one Teams call, bring him in for a face-to-face and hire him, or and as far as I have the guy who has to go through 3 interviews, meet with a psychiatrist, and then go to corporate to meet the president, right? So it just depends on the level of the search, the type of candidate it is, the type of position, how important the position is. It varies. So like to Rich's thing, if after 3 interviews, there's a reason, I want to know the reason why. Why can't we make an offer to Steve? Oh, well, because based on the last interview, we're concerned about his drive, so we want him to meet Joe. Or we want him to take a test. And then I can say, okay, look, hey, candidate, you did well, but you really bombed the 3rd interview, so they want you to take this assessment test. Like, nothing's black and white, so you have to look at the client and figure out why this isn't working.
So now you can tell us how you push the process.
You push it by asking the right questions, like Tom just said.
Yeah, from the very beginning. And then why aren't we doing this?
Yeah, what's changed? I mean, that's
That doesn't sound like
I don't
pushing.
know how to explain that more.
No, he said, I push the process. I push it. Well, so it happens faster. What you just said is, oh, there's 3 interviews. They're not sure about the guy. We want to send him up for another one, or maybe even one after that. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
I'll give you an
that's not
example of
pushing.
the process.
That's not pushing.
What we haven't talked about was the relationship with the hiring manager and with the recruiter. And your relationship with them will get you the truth. If you have no relationship, they're going to hold back. They're going to tell you a bunch of bullshit answers. But if you have the truth, they'll tell you, hey, you know what? This is what's really going on.
Yeah.
I can give you an example of how I push the process.
Give Rich a chance. He wanted to say.
Go ahead, Rich. Go
ahead, Tom.
Tommy, go ahead.
My best client. We had a candidate who was interviewing with 2 other companies. I ran to them and said, hey, if you guys want this guy, we got to move quick. The next day, they scheduled an interview at a plant, at a sales office instead of the plant, what they never do. They all drove down there. They met. They loved the guy. They then did a Teams interview, and I pushed another interview. Like, hey, we need to get the guy this offer because he's got 2 offers he's sitting on. They expedited the process, got the offer signed, sealed, and delivered, and got it to him 2 days later. That was faster than they had ever done it before.
And they did because, like Ernie said, they trusted you from their previous experience. Otherwise, if you were an unknown, they wouldn't have trusted you on that.
I don't know that.
Or they want the candidate. They didn't want to lose that.
They wanted the candidate too. Yeah.
Down to. We can push all we want. You know, at the end of the day is they've got to want to do it. If they
haven't you ever called a client? I'm sorry, Rich. Go ahead.
But no, if you say if they like the candidate, they're going to make it happen. You know,
I've called clients and say, I got the guy. You can't get him. Your process is too long. You can't get him. And trust me, if he's that good, they'll make it happen. And I've had it happen. Tommy Johnson, he's the engineering manager of McElroy Metal in Shreveport, Louisiana. He had accepted a job with MBCI in Houston. I called up McElroy and said, I got your guy, but you can't get him. He's already taken a job. He hasn't started yet, but you'd have to move too quick, and you guys are too slow. They flew him in the next day. They interviewed him in Shreveport. They made him the offer. He backed out of the other job and started there, and he's been there for 21 years today.
Okay, you reminded me. I just dropped my mouse. You reminded me of something. Rich told us a few weeks ago that he had a client. When you just said, I got the guy, Rich had talked to somebody. They had 3 agencies working on this search. They weren't able to find anybody. But Rich said, I got the guy. Okay, remember that, Rich?
Mm-hmm.
I got the guy. But they wouldn't sign a fee agreement right away. Okay,
yep.
So he wouldn't send the guy over. What happened there? Anything develop on that one?
Yeah, no, I ended up getting an agreement signed. The guy ended up wasting my time as I knew he would, and now we're actively trying to get him fired. So,
oh, that's the same one.
Yeah.
That's the one. Oh, I didn't realize there's 2 stories. I didn't realize they were all in the same place.
Now, I pulled the candidates. He's calling the candidates behind my back. The candidates keep telling me. One guy's already taken a job, but hasn't told the candidate this, the client this now. This company now, and
Okay, so that one's not working out.
No, because as it starts, as it goes, usually. It's one of the few adages that make sense over time.
Okay, Ernie, have you ever pushed your client?
You push them, but you realize you don't do much with it. It's you can push them, but if, like Rich said, Tom says, if they don't want to do anything, you aren't going to get it. You aren't going to get it to happen. But you can push. You can find the candidate.
What about this? Here's a related question with pushing. And Tom said they got the guy in. Everybody came into the same city and interviewed the person. Ed Han asked, "What's better, 3 interviews, separate interviews, or a panel interview with 3 people on it?"
Separate interviews.
Why do you say that?
Why? Because when you do these panel interviews, you either get one guy that's trying to be a hardo, or you get another guy that one guy doesn't say anything, and then they make everyone just tries to follow the leader, follow the crowd. They feel like this guy isn't any good. Now none of them like him. There's so much can go wrong. Plus, the candidate may feel awkward talking in front of this panel of people. There's so many things that could go wrong with it.
I had an experience when I was a director of HR where there were 2 cousins that ran the company, and we presented somebody, and they were always fighting with each other. So we had this interview, a panel of 4, and the candidate answered all the questions. We all loved him, except one of the cousins said, "Hey, I don't like him." And we say, "Why?" "Well, did you notice when he answered, he didn't even look at me?" We said, "Well, you didn't ask any questions." "Well, he should have looked at me."
Jesus Christ.
So I don't want him.
Yeah.
And he was an owner, and he didn't get selected.
So you couldn't say, "Look, owner, you're foolish. That doesn't make any sense.
The guy was fucking
You
nuts.
take my advice. You've got a relationship with me."
Ernie couldn't walk away.
The guy, no, I was a director of HR there. The guy was crazy, and you just sort of said, "Fine, whatever. It's your company."
Yeah, sounds pretty crazy. Yeah, but here's the thing. So what Rich said essentially is, like, if the police go to a domestic dispute or something like that, they won't interview the husband and wife or the different family members together. They separate them in order to get the truth, because otherwise there's going to be a group mentality of some sort. There's an interplay that inhibits somebody. Am I right about that, Rich? Did I understand what you said?
You are right. You are right.
So,
enthusiastic when he can say, "I'm wrong." Okay, there. Yeah, you're right.
I'm trying to figure out a bigger problem.
Okay, you go on.
Ernie's story, he should have, from then on in, make sure any candidate who's interviewing with both the cousins, when you answer a question, make sure you look at both guys.
But now
that's what I would have done.
Yeah. That first guy you didn't know. That's why he tried to say.
No, but I know he should never have had a panel interview with that company again. Okay, but Tom apparently.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do. There's
this
2
guy
owners.
who's been with the company 21 years, and he rushed people into a panel interview, and they succeeded. Am I right about? Did I understand you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tommy Johnson has been there 21 years, and he loves his job. Will never leave.
The panel interview went well.
I don't know if it was a panel as much as it was everybody got together and was there to interview. I can't go back 21 years to tell you if it was a panel, but we rushed to get that interview done.
The guy had accepted a job somewhere else. How did they manage to sway him?
I did. He went and accepted with a company called Metal Sales in Sellersburg, Indiana, who was a horrible, horrible company. And when I called the candidate and pitched him the job, he said he'd already accepted a job with Metal Sales. I told him he was crazy, and to believe me, to call these 2 guys, and I gave him 2 phone numbers of ex-Metal Sales employees. And then I said, "I'll call you back later." So he called one of the guys. The guy's like, "You're crazy if you go work there, blah, 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 blah." And then he went back and talked to his wife, and he said, "What do you think I should do?" He goes, "What about the recruiter?" He goes, "Well, he didn't even leave me his number." And she goes, "Well, I think you should track him down," because obviously he was serious. So I called him the next day. He goes, "Dude, you didn't even leave my number." I go, "I know, but what did you think?" He goes, "I think you're right. I need to interview with McElroy." And that's when we pushed the process.
Okay. Is there something that the candidate could have done in that case to research the company himself? I mean, how did he happen to be walking into a bad situation?
You're talking about 20 years ago when we didn't have the internet, man.
But it wasn't as filled with data.
Yeah, I mean, like
today.
Metal Sales was a powerhouse in the industry, but it's owned by a family similar to Ernie's story before. That if you don't have your Mackin on the back of your jacket, there's a big bullseye instead, and you will get fired for no reason whatsoever.
Okay, here's a question that this is a Rich type question. If he comes back, we'll get him in on this, but this relates directly to that. How do you avoid a trap like this? Here's this woman, a recruiter. She said, "I've got a candidate. she took a job recently with a company that's not a client of mine. I had nothing to do with that, but it turned out to be a bait and switch. The company, I don't know if it's a bait and switch, but the information she was given about the company financials were not true. Okay. And last week they ended up doing a large layoff. Okay. So if that was her client, I mean, would that be possible that a recruiter would be tricked like that? That they tell you one thing about their financial status and it's not true? Is there any way a recruiter could protect herself from getting suckered in, like the candidate did?
Ask the right questions, but you really they'll lie to you, or they may not know. I placed a guy with a company in Washington State, and they shut down the division 6 months later. No one knew. No one knew that they were shutting the division down. It was a corporate decision after the next quarter, and there was nothing. This guy moved. He went to work there. I got my fee. Everything. Everybody's happy, and then they shut the division down and closed the plant in Washington State. There was nothing I could have done to find that out. So it just depends. You ask the right questions ahead of time, you can get the answer, but sometimes corporate comes down or they get sued, or a job falls apart. I mean, there's a million things that can happen that you can't really control.
Okay, that's like, Ernie, I'm going to come to you in a second on the same question, but that's like after COVID, these companies started hiring like crazy for high salaries. 6 months later, they started laying off the same people. But I think a lot of people said, watch out, there's something fishy going on here. Although lots of recruiters got suckered into taking jobs and now they're not working anymore. Ernie, is there any way that you would if they told you this company's very successful, would you be able to test their true financial status?
Not really. Not especially if I deal with smaller companies, but I would say the reality of it is the relationship with who you're talking to. And if you're talking to just say the recruiter, the internal recruiter, or the hiring manager, or the HR manager, or the plant manager, you're not going to get that kind of information. But if you're talking to the VPs, then you may get that information because they're in those discussions, and those are pretty. When they got financial problems, when they got those kind of things going on, those are pretty tight-lipped conversations that they don't share. But then your relationship with the VP can lead you to get that little bit of information that you need, and it may not be direct and maybe indirect, and you just gotta read the signals that he's telling you, because if he ends up his conversation, hey, and if you got anything for me, let me know, then hell, something's wrong. Okay,
there's something's going there. Rich, this is right in your ballpark, I think. Okay, although you can tell me it isn't. These guys like to contradict me, okay?
No.
This recruiter, are you? Let's just nod your head, Rich. I can see the top of your head go up and down. Okay. So this recruiter, she said her candidate, it wasn't her candidate for this, but the candidate went into a job. They company told her their financials situation was great. 6 months later, they laid everybody off. Okay. And I'm wondering, could a recruiter get tricked like that? Because you're with startups, you have to know their financial situations, don't you? Isn't that because there's so much insecurity there? It's really important that you establish that, these guys are going to be around a year from now. Am I right about that? That it's more intense with a startup situation like yours? Can't hear ya. Can't hear ya.
Oh God, how's that? Is that better?
Yeah, now it's better.
Yeah, hey, listen, the private companies, they're going to tell you what they're going to tell you.
No.
Yeah.
No, you'll put a guy in there. Okay, I'll get you. You'll put a candidate in there, and the poor candidate will find out a few months later that this company is garbage. Am I right?
You moved him across country. You moved him away from his dying mother.
Yeah,
you created all that shit. Come on.
Listen, the end of the day is our job is to introduce people. Right? All this bullshit that we're supposed to be there, be the people that go and act like social workers and caretakers. Not that you want to put someone in harm's way, but listen, you're an adult. You got to ask the right questions. I mean, so if you go on a dating app, do you just trust the dating app did all the background checks?
What does that mean? So the recruiter has to do more background. Do you do background checks to find out the real?
No, it means my job is to introduce you to opportunities, get you in front of the person to give yourself a chance to get that job. Without me, that's not probably going to happen. My job is not to run every background check on every company and every client and every candidate. I mean, that's a whole other retainer agreement. You know?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, but Tom did tell us this exciting story a few minutes ago where his candidate took a job with another company, and because Tom was so well informed about the industry, he could give him references to see that he didn't know anything about that company, that it was really not a good company.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a different story though. Like I have clients, I find out they're dog shit, and I pull the candidates. I've dropped clients, I drop clients all the time. I drop, drop candidates all the time too for being dipshits. But
okay, what does it mean they're a dipshit or dog shit? What does that mean?
Well, either the client turns out they treat people like dirt. They're not getting the deals done they said they were getting done. Like if I know, I'll tell people. Like I mean, that company I mentioned the other day, last time about the idiot VP of sales. I told the candidates going into it, this VP is just an absolute moron.
Yeah, but that was a real special case. Okay,
But
that was
the point is, I do that with everyone. I never put anyone into harm's way knowingly. But am I 100% responsible for what this company is telling me? No, because I'm going to double check it. It's a private company. You don't know what my finances are. I don't know what yours are. So why would a company be any different?
The bottom line to that is you really try not to get you want to find out as much information as you can about the whole situation. But the bottom line is you never want the candidate to say, what the hell did you get me into?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you should never knowingly put someone into harm's way.
100%.
Yeah, but you don't know. You guys all confessed right now.
Knowingly, no. Well, we said
Knowingly.
Like literally, if you go on a date, do you know everything about the person before you go on a date?
It's don't you think it's a little different? A date's
How is it any different?
because you're signing on to work there on an ongoing basis. So you're not getting married to her, okay? When you go on a date.
If you're going to go to dinner with some chick with a knife, you don't know if she's nuts or not. She may stab you.
Oh, yeah. That's likely to happen.
I saw that movie. I saw that movie.
That was my first.
You tell that to John Bobbitt. I mean, it's.
Rich makes a good point. Knowingly, like you can do some due diligence if you know from your industry. In the industry I work, if everybody says, "Hey, Metal Sales, for example, is a shit ass company," you can tell people, "Hey, I made a placement with Metal Sales," but I told the guy, "Look, they got a horrible reputation, right? It's owned by a family business.
Mm-hmm.
I can't guarantee you'll be there in 2 years, but they are needing a VP of marketing. Would you be interested in interviewing?" Yeah, I would be. I want to move to that area.
Different situation. You warn the person.
Yeah, what we're all saying though, we're all saying the same thing. Is listen, you have to be, you should be as honest as possible with the client and with the candidate about everything you know. No one's trying to play any games. That's what scumbag recruiters do, who try to trick you into some, blowing up some beautiful, some garbage opportunity, make it sound like it's a magical place, and just ignore, try to talk them out of around every problem that company may have. I mean, I don't ever try to talk people into these I shouldn't say ever. Generally don't try to talk people into an opportunity. They got to be excited about it, especially being at startups. If you're not excited about that company, you're excited about the people you're going to work for, about the product you're going to sell, then you're probably not right for that company.
So and Ernie gave the you made this you pulled the person, you made her relocate. You didn't make her. You're going to say you didn't make her. But what if she comes back to you, Rich, 6 months after in the job, and she said, "Rich, this company is really bad. This is not like it seemed," and you're going to say, "It's not my fault. You made the decision."
You're going to say, "Listen, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." I mean,
and then you say, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I just had a situation. A candidate he left after 5 months. The VP called me up and said, "Hey, you're going to give me a refund?" I said, "No." He's like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Well, from what the candidate's telling me, this changed, this changed, this changed, this changed. It's not what we agreed upon." And he's like, "I get it." I mean, he was like, these people are all business people. They understand. They may ask for things. Doesn't mean you have to do them. And, if a company like this person went to this horrible place that she transferred to, are you really going to do business with that company again? Probably not. I wouldn't. So,
okay. But what happens with Ernie said, so what do you want to do? Would you pull your own candidate, Ernie, after you collected a fee?
From that position?
It depends.
Not necessarily. You just gotta find out. I wouldn't pull them from there, but I would ask them what they want to do and coach them a little bit. But
you wouldn't place her in another position yourself.
No, but you kind of shy away from the company, and you want to find out what the hell's going on. And sometimes, if you know that that candidate is not happy, you want to make a few phone calls maybe. And if you got a good relationship with their hiring manager or someone up the ladder, you ask them, hey, this person's looking to leave. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, or you may not say they want to look to leave because that will get yourself in trouble. But you may want to, say, hey, what's going on? Just want to check in on the folks I placed. See how things are doing. What's the vibe in the company? You don't necessarily see. I wouldn't say, hey, Joe's looking to leave. He called me. He's pissed.
And I will say, I might ruffle some feathers here, but if a candidate that I placed there for 6 months is going to leave because the company's shit and they're going to leave, I'm going to get a fee for that candidate if I can. I'm not going to leave money on the table. And if I have to give that company back a refund, I'll do that. But I'm not going to let her go work somewhere else if I can get a fee for her.
Yeah. I mean, most recruiters will do the same thing. They won't admit it, but they'll do the same thing. Because, listen, this person's leaving one way or the other, it sounds like. I would call the company and want to know what the story is, because there's two sides to every story. So oftentimes the candidates have one version of what happened, the client's got another version.
And there are times when they'll tell you, you know what, we want her to leave.
Yeah,
we want her to leave. So
yeah,
okay, cool.
I don't think that's
the one.
They paid that money.
Then you ask, do you want me to help them take her out and put her in another position?
You know what? But even if let's say the company really is bad, it's a Frankenstein company, okay? And so you do what Tom said. You'll go and place that candidate somewhere else. It's going to look bad for you. It's going to be easy for them to tell other people in their industry that you place people with them and then pull them out. I don't know. And I keep hearing.
I'm okay with that. If it's a shitty company, I'll say, hey, if it was a shitty ass company, they say what they were going to do. You know how bad metal sales is. You know the reputation they have.
You won't have a chance to speak to all the people. That bad word of mouth, you won't have a chance to stop that. And yet I keep seeing recruiters on Facebook say, oh, I've placed this candidate in 3 different jobs over the last 15 years. That means they've pulled the person from the company where they put them before.
Sometimes they get fired. The company goes out of business.
Yeah,
that's not team players. Or they've had another. They've had another career in between.
Yeah,
that's not what they mean. You guys are looking for all the angles to make.
That's what they mean. Times that I've never pulled them once from a company that I placed them at. And that's over 27 years.
Okay, everybody, there you've got America's #1 solo recruiter, according to Forbes magazine. Okay. Is there anybody who wants to raise an issue?
Is there such a magazine?
Yeah, I hear about it. Well, we hear about it every year from Rich.
There you go.
He's the only
subscriber, baby.
Anybody got an issue they want to raise, or should I go on?
I do. I saw a posting that someone put up that said, what are the free tools that you're using? And you see stupid things like that in the sense that you want to, I wrote back, so what are you using right now? And what do you need them for? And people, I think it goes to the fact that people do not want to learn. They don't want to go out and learn for themselves and play around with something.
Yep.
They just want you to spoon feed them.
Yep.
And then they're off in 20 million directions. So it's kind of crazy.
No, I don't think that's right, Ernie. I could say, Ernie, what free tools are you using? And you give me some names, and then I go around and play around with them. That's what I do when I hear people give me tips here.
All those questions have been asked 100 times. Go in there and look. I'm sick and tired of hearing.
There's a million recruiters
emails.
Okay.
All it takes is for a person to go into, say, Recruiters Online and type in free tools. Yeah, but and they'll get a list of answers in the history.
They keep changing. They keep changing. You got to admit that as well, okay? They keep changing. I'm the moderator, and I got used to that after a while, okay?
So then there's the other one that said, what is better, swordfish or this one?
Those are fair questions. Those are fair questions.
Oh, you answered that one. You answered that one, didn't you, Tom? It was like,
I just answered one the other day, like sales QLs. And I say, but there's also Apollo and it's the same thing. I say it over and over again. They're all basically the same. They have their good points and bad points. Pick the one you like. Pick the one that fits your thing better.
And then they answer, yeah, but that costs too much. What the hell?
Or what
I
about
don't
this?
know.
What about that?
Am I dealing
Am
with a-
I so
am I
much
dealing with a
nicer and more
teenager?
liberal than you guys? I don't see any problem with those questions.
I
think
answer them, but it's like redundant.
I think the
And I
problem-
learned something from your answers, okay? And I thank you for them. And I said, he's got great comments. You could learn tons of stuff for free from these guys, okay?
Well, I think you want people that want to learn, and there's a division of people that don't learn anything and people that give us a bad name.
They all
because
want to learn. Some are just lazier than other people, okay? Some are more dedicated. And like Rich said, they're executors. And I don't know if that.
Oh, I will say it's hard sometimes because you have people like us, and then you have talent acquisition specialists that work for companies, and then you have temp people. And there's the three different areas that sometimes the applicant tracking systems or the CRM or whatever it is you're using doesn't really fit. So that's also something that I tend to say, hey, are you perm? Are you temp? Do you work in-house before I answer the question?
Okay, here's a question. You're working on a search, you find some people, then the CEO of your client says, you know what? I want to make this job more senior. I want to pay $50,000 more for this job. Can you go and find me somebody for that? Okay, what do? You've got a better search now for a more expensive job. Okay, do you say, look, I busted my ass already. Before I make another move for you, you have to pay me a retainer? Or do you just say, okay?
or an engagement fee.
Yeah, you want to get an engagement fee. I mean, listen, we just did the search. I can't work for free. You know, I mean, is this
So
your first
nobody would just
hang
change
on, is it
gears.
the first time you're working with a client?
Again, depends.
Yeah. First time you work with this client, is it this, what's the story?
You can ask for an exclusive. You can ask for, a number of things you
Hold
can do.
on a second.
Exclusive that I can get
Nobody here will work on anything that is an exclusive. Am I right about that?
At least that's what they tell you. I mean, what I'm saying from the client company.
I mean, if you can't get a couple $1,000 up front, I mean, I asked for 10 grand. If you can't get, something up front, and they really want this search done badly, you got to ask why.
Yeah, that's the same thing I asked. I want 3 to 5 grand up front, and if you aren't willing to put that skin in the game, then this is not that important of a position to you, or you don't value my expertise.
They don't know, and they know you already. They know you already, or they don't. Why should they value you if they don't know you?
Because of who I am. I may not be the #1 Forbes solo bald guy in Massachusetts, but I am as good at what I'm very good at what I do, and have a very good reputation.
Really, Pistachio? Good Lord.
I wonder who he's talking about.
My reputation precedes me in the industry. So you have a problem, call. I'll give you a dozen references to call. So I don't do shit for free.
Okay. Now, I do have an issue that Tom answered. He's talked about it before, but I'd like him to make it even more clear if everybody finds this interesting. If you say you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. He talked to somebody. He said, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have issues if you're trying to do cold outreach with your main email only, because some services, do you want to take it over from there, and I'll interrupt you if I think you have to clarify.
So with my applicant tracking system and some of the other services out there, they use a company called Mailgun to divert your email through, so you don't look at like you're a spammer or sending hundreds of emails from your personal or business email. So if you don't have access to Mailgun, you need to have like Thomas@prsearchinc.com, Thomas@prsearchinc.info, Thomas@prsearchinc.co. If you're going to do these huge cold email campaigns where you're sending a couple hundred emails out a day, because you're going to get flagged as a spammer otherwise.
Who's going to flag you? Google? Who's going to flag you?
3 or 4 different services out there. If you need to know how your
blacklist out there is what the
the blacklist. You can put your email address into this one system, and it'll bring back what your score is. I'm a 9.5 to a 9/10 almost every time because of me using Mailgun.
Your score is called. Someone wants to check their score. What's it called? What do they search to get their score? You don't know. Okay, don't know. Okay.
Like web checker or spam score or something like that.
Okay, so Tom said he uses Mailgun, but you actually use another service that uses Mailgun. You don't use them directly. Am I right about that?
Alascio uses I actually signed up for Mailgun and it didn't work the way I wanted it to work, so I canceled it. But Mario uses Mailgun through his Gmail.
Gmail, you can use his Mailgun.
You can use Mailgun for almost any service because it's an SMTP kind of like you're here, your client's here, it's down here, and it goes like this. But it still says it comes from Mike at animalrecruiting.com, even though it's actually coming from Mailgun server.
Okay, Rich, do you use anything?
Crelate uses Mailgun as well.
Okay, and you send your emails out through Crelate, your ATM.
Yeah.
And it uses and Tom sends his emails out through Loxo, his applicant tracking system, and it uses Mailgun. What about you, Ernie? You don't send mass emails.
I don't send mass emails. I use Alascio to send my emails.
Okay,
so he uses Mailgun.
Okay.
Mail-tester.com. I just put it in the chat. Mail-tester.com. If you send an email to the email address in the box, it'll then, when you check your score, it'll tell you what your score is and what you're missing. You're missing
but if you're like that person at the beginning who's only sending out to approaching 10 potential candidates, you don't have to worry about that. It's only for mass emails.
Can I change the subject a little bit? Another thought that came to my mind.
Go ahead.
One of the things about being on this show, any show, is like when we talk about tools and things of that sort and learning, part of it is I get to know these guys. So if I get a question, I'll message one of them, I'll call them, and I'll get an answer from people who know what they're talking about. And there's other people that have joined the show as well that I've also become friends with. And the other thing is we share stuff. Like, here's a great email that's gotten me a lot of results, a great MPC stuff. And you're kind of sharing stuff. But that would not have happened had I not been on this show talking to these guys, because they know who I am. I know who they are. We have respect for each other. And you get some good answers, which is a lot.
He's doing an ad for the show. I'm going to have to cut this out and say, look.
Which is a lot better than just asking on a
but
post.
Since we're doing that, my impression is that if you go to I don't know if it's called a show, Tom's got a bull session, and they it's more tool oriented, and you get more into the weeds than I allow. Am I right about that?
Yeah. It's a round table. Anybody can talk. We go off. We don't answer questions.
Well, this is a round table too, but I try to guide the discussion.
I don't moderate.
Do you want to do a plug for it? How would they find you?
Oh, it's every Friday at 12:30. You can find it on our Discord. You can find it on recruiters who actually make placement.
What's it called?
Recruiter Roundtable. That's it. Number whatever.
There must be half a dozen things called Recruiter Roundtable. Okay, thanks.
I'm not.
Yeah.
This
He's
is
another one.
Anybody who
spend $20. Get a domain name. Okay, I don't know what's wrong with you people. Okay?
I did this strictly so I could have conversations with people like you. I'm not looking to monetize it. I'm not looking to do anything other than.
I'm not making any money.
Talk to people because I got this fucking office and a dog. The dog won't talk back to me anymore.
Okay,
the voices in my head stop talking too.
Let me come back. I screwed this up because of this talk about this Mailgun stuff. Though you say MailChimp and Source Whale. Those are also tools you can use They use Mailgun. Yeah.
Source Whale, I don't know. MailChimp is its own server. Interstellar uses Mailgun as well.
Upticks, you said Upticks uses it?
Upticks does not. And in fact, that was what I was trying to do. I was trying to integrate Mailgun into Upticks, and it couldn't be done. I actually had tickets open with both Upticks and Mailgun, and they couldn't figure it out.
Okay, what's Spintax, though? You talk about Spintax.
That's it's a service. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rich.
That's part of Uptick, Spintex.
Yeah, it just spins the text to be a little different every time, which will help you not get flagged by spam, because if you're sending, "Hi, Mike, I'm Tom. I'm a headhunter. Let's talk." It goes, "Hi, Rich. My name is Tom. I'm a recruiter. Let's talk. Hey, howdy, Ernie. I'm a search consultant. Let's have a conversation."
And
right?
do you think that's good? Do you think that's good or not as good as
it's not as good as the Mailgun thing, but it absolutely will. The way that the services that flag you works, they look at the text of your email and see how often it's the same. And that's how they value it as a spam.
Okay, another one for Tom. You also keep plugging for LinkedIn using Sales Navigator, but you added something this week. It's for $79 American a month, but you have to get it from the App Store. You can't just
Correct.
get it. Tell people, tell those dummies that Ernie was talking about exactly how to do it. Make it
So
easy.
$79 a month. If you go to LinkedIn and pay up front for a year, it ends up averaging out $79 a month. If you go to the Apple App Store, and it might be on the Google Chrome Store, I don't know, or whatever the Androids has. If you go onto the Apple App Store and order Sales Navigator, right? They charge you the $79 a month price. You get 50 emails a month. They roll over, but they cap at 150, and they charge you monthly on whatever your apps thing is. So it's exactly the same as if you order it through LinkedIn, but you cannot upgrade if you've ordered it through the App Store, right? So if you want to go from one LinkedIn Navigator to the higher LinkedIn Navigator, you got to do that through LinkedIn, and you cannot do it through the App Store. So for me, I just want the $79 gives me the bare minimum of paying for LinkedIn.
Yeah,
so
but is there any
LinkedIn
recruiter
jail.
who doesn't buy their LinkedIn on an annual basis as opposed to? Oh, okay. Actually, they bill me every month separately. Well, no, but I don't have to buy it every month. It's just a recurring cost. I mean,
yeah, that's the same thing. It's a recurring cost. My phone gets charged every month.
Yeah. Okay.
Just like my my Google One account is on there, my Apple Drive or Apple whatever, because I get all the music and the news and all that shit. Apple Family or whatever it's called. That's all charged monthly for me, and it just comes out of my business account.
Okay. Anybody else got an issue they want to talk about? No? Condolences to Michael G. Cox.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his wife died, although I think she was really suffering the last little while.
Yeah.
Mike Astringer, who used to be a regular on this show, he died as well this week.
I saw that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And well, so there's been and Rich's father died recently, and Ben Nader. So there's been a lot of that going around. Okay. And I want to thank Tom for suggesting this. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with this, so I'll have to see. I find the recording on my Google Drive. Is that what I get? Where I get the recording?
Yeah, it'll be under Google Meet recordings or Google Meets or something like that. But yeah, this will be in your Google Drive. And just so you know, if you can also stream this live to YouTube. I don't know if you want to do that because you edit it and stuff, but I stream the roundtables live.
Yeah, you know what? Nobody goes, or maybe you makes us 3 or 4 people. I don't think they will.
Yeah, that's what I get, like 3 to 4 people. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you very much.